Episode 123 of Five Drinks for Midnight. Another show where we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks. We try to wrap up before midnight. Today we are talking to Guillaume Thomas, founder and CEO of Martingale Cognac. But before we do, like and subscribe, hit the bells, the whistles, leave a comment if you like what we're doing. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for having us at Martingale Headquarters. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and it's great to have you.
Excellent. No, I'm so excited for this. First of all, I have to say thank you because in October, I received this green box in the mail, and it was crazy, and it is really well done, but it blew me away, and I've been obsessed now with cognac ever since. So I've been so excited for this. Again, coming to the tasting here was amazing. I'm so excited. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm glad you liked it, and I am excited as well.
Excellent. I guess, what are we going to drink first?
What would you like to start with? Should we start with Martingale? Should we start with the tasting?
I bring the questions, you bring the drinks, so it's totally up to you. So
why don't we do just a sip of Martingale first?
Okay.
Then we can see what's inside, and then we round it up by going back to the Martingale.
Awesome, yeah.
That'd be okay?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Let's open that up.
Oh,
Yes.
beautiful pop,
Like
beautiful pop.
Yeah. There we go. It's just a small pour to start with.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's gorgeous. It just is just something that, I'm going to give you time to talk about it, but I feel that this is part of your origin story, and our first question is always about the origin story. So, question one is, how'd you get started in the spirits business? Because also, this isn't your first rodeo. You have like 18 years of spirits, because you worked at Pernod Ricard. So,
Yes.
this is not your first kind of, just jumping in, you're making something.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit of just, your origin story and
Of
how
course.
you got into the spirits?
Of course, yeah. So actually, I really started by being born in Cognac, in one of the most prominent, I would say, distilling families of Cognac. Cognac is a small area in the southwest of France, where it's the only area where you can make Cognac. It's one of those things that in French we call appellation d'origine contrôlée. So it's a quite small area with a very specific regulation in terms of how you grow the vineyards, how you grow the wine, how you distill, and how you age, so that you can call the product Cognac. So I was born there a few years ago.
Okay.
And I grew up very close to my grandfather. We were living in the same house, so I was very fortunate to spend time with him. He was a very entrepreneurial, charismatic, entertaining figure, very well known in the Cognac area, which he participated to, I would say, build as an appellation, working in many ways for the area and the terroir, and it was amazing for me to grow up with such a character. I was quite close, and I'm still very close to my parents, but I have to say it's always good to escape and be with your granddad to do different things.
Yeah.
Having said that, I was following in his footsteps when I was really a kid. I mean, in the vineyards and then in distillery, and trying to always hearing about the stories of Cognac and the stories of the great brands and the stories about the people and the ups and downs of this incredible industry, which is old. And that probably was always there in the back of my mind. Now, after graduating from high school, I went to college, and then I worked in Paris, and I was a strategy consultant for a few years, and then one day I got a call to go and work for Pernod Ricard, as you said, which I was there for 18 years. I did several jobs. I was in mergers and acquisitions, so I was very fortunate to work on big projects like Domecq, when it was acquired by Pernod Ricard, Absolute, and then I worked as a chief financial officer in different affiliates around the world, in South Africa and Africa, in Irish distillers, so Jameson in Dublin. And then I came to America as the CFO of the US and then North America. I stayed there for almost 8 years.
Okay.
And I had a fantastic time. Some people say that these 18 years at Pernod Ricard were the longest MBA for me to finally create a brand. But yeah, I suppose it caught up to me that after, and maybe it's crazy to live a fairly successful corporate career in a great company. I love Pernod Ricard, and I have still a lot of friends there, and I learned a ton of things. But my cousin, my dad, they approached me a few years ago and said, we have all the assets and we've been doing that for a very long time, actually more than a century, but we never had our own brand. All my family does is make fantastic wine that makes fantastic distillate, and we are really a distilling family first and foremost, even though we have a large vineyard, and we also have warehouses, our own aged inventory, but we always sold that to some of the great brands of the industry and never created our own brand. So thought about it. Even though I loved Pernod Ricard, I said I might regret that all my life if I don't do it. I mean, it's too tempting to try and do that. I probably had my grandfather in the back of my head, who he passed away in 2016. So I was already in the US at the time, and I had worked at Pernod Ricard for almost 10 years at the time. And he told me that he hopes that one day, with my experience at Pernod Ricard and my cousin's experience running the family business in Cognac, we would combine and maybe do what he never had the time to do, which is create our own brand. So, I mean, all of this collided, and then I left Pernod Ricard exactly a year ago. They were very gracious with me, and I started that. I raised capital not just from my family, who's funding obviously a lot of the venture, but also other really interesting people, because I think it's important to obviously get financing, but also get people who can support the project in different ways, and we have really interesting people in our capital. I hired a fantastic team, which is probably the most important thing you need to be successful as an entrepreneur, or for that matter, almost anything in life. It's really about the people. So we hired a fantastic team, and we launched in October of 2023, just in New York and in Los Angeles for now.
Okay. So your grandfather had the winery, and you didn't have your own brand back then. So you guys just made other distillates for other companies.
Yes. So my family probably has been making cognac since the 1850s, but we don't really have proof of it.
Gotcha.
And we changed areas but where my family operations are today, so where we have kind of the family house and then the distillery and the warehouses, my great-grandfather acquired that after the First World War, but initially it was really a farm. And there was a bit of vineyards and a very small pot still, and it was really not really a cognac operation. There were cows, pigs, wheat, everything. And my grandfather had to take over from my great-grandfather, who was maybe of a hippie before his time.
Okay,
I'm not sure he was the strongest businessman. He had a long hair, a long beard. And my grandfather really had to take over during the Second World War. And after the Second World War, partly thanks to American money with the Marshall Plan, which was about rebuilding Europe, my grandfather decided to convert the farm into really focusing on cognac, so vineyards and the distillery initially. Probably didn't really like pigs and cows, and really wanted to focus on the right thing and the good stuff. And from there, he built one of the largest vineyards. We have vineyards in the top 4 sub-areas of Cognac, which has 6 sub-areas in total. So we have vineyards in the top 4 areas. We have one of the largest distillery. We have our own warehouses and our own casks and aged inventory. But to answer your question, all of this we use to supply the large cognac brands that are very well known and that we respect a lot. And that's the way the value chain in cognac is structured. Most of the large and famous brands, what they do is they work with smaller family operations like my own family, where they buy aged cognac that they age further and blend to create the very well-known brands that we do. So we are one of the largest operators that supply those large brands, but we never had our own brand. We stopped just short of that,
Okay.
and now we do.
Now you do. So just, and again, I don't know if you're able to talk about that, but like being a supplier and going into your own brand, did you just kind of stop making stuff and then being like, oh, we're just going to keep this for ourselves now, or are you still kind of making stuff for other brands?
So yeah, we want to continue to be. We are really recognized for the quality of what we do. We are. Not just large in size, even though it's a small family operation in the end, but not just one of the largest. We're also well recognized for the quality of what we do, and we want to keep the relationships that we've been built for decades with some of the great brands of the industry. We don't want to jeopardize that. We just want to, I would say, we use what we've learned, and maybe I would say some of the best of what we've learned as well, and share it with the American consumers to start with, and then more generally we go to other international markets as well, because we believe we have something to bring as well, which is a bit different to what we do with the traditional cognac houses. Even though it's very high quality, it's kind of one type of cognac. And so yeah, we will continue to work with them. They are great partners, and we take pride in still making some of the best cognac for some of the best brands. But we also believe that we can maybe bring our own small thing to the world, and hopefully successfully.
Well, awesome. Well, there we go. I think that's a fucking awesome origin story, and again, beautiful cognac. So I think cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Question 2, drink 2. What are we drinking?
So I think what we should do is maybe once we've had a first sip and taste of what is Martingale, hopefully you've noticed that it is definitely a cognac in its richness of aromas and fragrances, but also somewhat different. So the way we design Martingale is to be extremely aromatic and fragrant, but fresh. A lot of cognacs, and again, we make cognac for other great brands, so I love what they do, but they tend to be very rich, very heavy, very woody, very dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's obviously one way to make great cognac, and a lot of people love that. Mm. But I think there's also an opportunity to let the fragrances of cognac shine in a slightly fresher way, with a bit more elegance, a bit more refinement. And that's what we've tried to do with Martingale. It took us, by the way, I left Pernod Ricard a year ago, but obviously this was in the works for a few years. It took my cousin and I 2.5 years, almost 3 years, to really find what we wanted to do. And if I make a quick analogy, we love wine, and in Cognac we are very close to Bordeaux, and we were educated with my cousin or my brothers on Bordeaux wines. And like 20-30 years ago, Bordeaux wines had to be minimum 10 years old, very woody, very oaky, quite influenced by Robert Parker and his notation system.
Okay.
Today, you go to Bordeaux and you can drink a Grand Cru after 3 years.
Okay.
And it's going to be fresh, and it's going to be fruity, and it's going to be... now, you can still age it, but the style of the wines has expanded, it's become a lot richer, a lot more diverse. And so we wanted to a certain extent to bring that to Cognac, where cognacs have been, I would say, marketed and created to be, again, used as most people are used to, dark and by the fireplace. I think cognac can be fresh and fragrant and burst through flavors. So that's what we've created. That. How did we do that? We are using some of the top 4 crus. So the cognac area is divided into 6 sub areas.
Okay.
Each of them create wines that have a slightly different characteristic, even though it's all the same varietal. The soil is very different, and so the wines are going to be quite different, and once you distill them, they are going to bring different characteristics. And we are using the top 4 crus, and we are going to talk about it and taste each of them, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
One after the other.
Okay.
And then what we do is that 2 important things actually are probably more what we don't do than also what we do. What we don't do is our distillation process in cognac is all in copper pot stills, a small batch, but you have two kind of you have one choice which gives two kind of fairly different eau de vie. You can distill with lees or you can distill without lees. The lees are, once you make the wine, you have the dead yeast that fall at the bottom of the tank, and then you can either distill with that residue, and it's going to bring flavors, but very, very, very rich and a bit heavy. So very intense, which some people love. My family, we always distill without lees, because what we prefer is a style of cognac that's going to be a bit lighter and a bit more elegant. So that's the one big thing that is different in how we do it. I mean, other brands do it, but for us it's 100% like that. And then also at the end, once we blend the 4 cru we're going to talk about, we don't use woodies. So we only blend our 4 types. Actually, in reality, it's 200 components, but they come from the 4 main sub-areas. And we don't add the woodies that otherwise add a lot of color and a bit of, I would say, tannins and structure. So again, that reinforces that kind of strong style of traditional cognacs. For us, we don't do that. So maybe let's talk about the 4 cru are called by kind of order of traditional prestige: Grand Champagne, Petite Champagne, Borderie, and Fin Bois. So we are going to start with. If you can read, one which is the B.
Just the B?
Just the B.
Okay.
Because that's really what really differentiates us, being my family. So, smell? Yes. It's all on the nose. And you'll see that of the 4, 2 will be having more influence on your nose, and 2 will have more influence on your mouth. And so on the nose, then you can taste it. So you have the flavors that we love from Borderie. Very fragrant, very floral, very elegant. You get a lot of that through the nose. You get that flavor, but then the mouth, it stops very quickly.
I was gonna say, like it sits, you get it, and then it's gone.
And then it's gone. So you have this fantastic flavor, but then it's gone. So we love Borderie for exactly that purpose, which is those fragrant eau de vie, that elegance, that floral, white flowers type of flavors. But the thing is that we are going to need to complement that so that you also get that taste to stay a bit longer in your mouth. So Borderie, number 1, why? Because that's the most fragrant.
So with question 2, where did the name come from?
So finding a name is hard, right? Because you wanted to tell something about yourself, your story, and obviously one name is not going to say everything you want to say. But Martingale is a French word originally that is used in English, but only a few people know it, and maybe the people who gamble will know the word. Because Martingale, in general, a Martingale is a sure way to win at something. So it has been used, for example, in gambling. How? Because there are tricks that are a martingale to win, for example, at roulette. So in roulette, the martingale, you pick a number. Every time you lose, you double your bet. At some point, so you need very deep pockets. You're gonna win, but at some point, you're gonna win. For sure. And the casinos, if you start doing that, the casinos will stop you because they know you're gonna win at the end. And so, why did we choose Martingale? Because, as I said, I had a corporate career. It took me a long time to decide to launch this venture. My grandfather was always somebody who was taking risk. And he loved to create and build, and he was really a builder, entrepreneur. And one of the most important things that happened to him in his life is after the Second World War, he built the first distillery. In the 1960s, that first distillery entirely burnt down. At the time, security levels were not what they are today. And my father remembers always the next day my grandfather looking at his destroyed and burnt down distillery saying, you know what, I'm going to build a new distillery and it's going to be twice as big. And so by taking that risk, and he built indeed a domain that was even bigger than what he had before, and was very successful in doing that. So as a tribute to him, and as more generally a tribute to all those people that try and find their martingale in life, and it takes persistence, it can take many years until you're successful, but you need to keep at it and keep going, and ultimately when you find your martingale, you find your way in life.
Excellent. I love it because again, when you explained it when we were here for the tasting, I was like, that's weird math because yeah, like if you picked a number at roulette and like let's just say you like did 5. And like you put $1 down, and then you lose, then you put $2 down,
Exactly.
and then you lose, then you put 4,
Yes.
and like eventually you're right, you're eventually gonna hit, but you have no idea when that might be. It could take years, but you will then win big. So I just love that, and again, I think you are winning big because I just think that this is just absolutely fabulous. Like
Thank you.
I'm obsessed. Like honestly, like. When you guys sent me the box, I immediately was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I went through all these, and then I was like, oh, now we start making some cocktails, and it was just absolutely amazing. But yeah, I love that. I love that risk-taking, and just, yeah, you were CMO of Pernod here in the States, and you just left it to go do this, and like, it's just amazing, and follow your dream, and I think a great tribute to your grandfather. So I think that's freaking awesome. So, cheers.
Cheers to Bordeaux this time.
Yeah. Question 3, drink 3.
Yes.
Which one are we doing next?
So next, first we did Bordeaux, which had that floral, elegance, aromatic, but a bit of lack of persistence.
Yep.
So great nose. Mouth, we need something else. So let's go to PC, Petite Champagne.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's pour that. Up. Nose.
Mm-hmm.
A lot less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's not much coming out.
No, there.
But put it in your mouth.
Oh yeah. That goes.
Yeah. Then you have the mouth, the structure in the mouth, and the persistence, right? And it stays in your mouth. And so that's really 2 of the characteristics we were looking for, and we have 2 more to go.
Yep.
Bordeaux was very fragrant and elegant. Petite Champagne, not a lot on the nose, so less fragrance, but a great mouthfeel, right? It's warm, it stays in your mouth, it structures, and it gives length and persistence to your drink.
And a little tingle too. Like
Yes,
yeah.
a little, yeah.
Yep, I still get the tingle, so that's nice. Yeah, that's.
So that's Petite Champagne.
All right, awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So question 3. What's it like to work with a family? Because with your family, because your cousin is your master blender, and so therefore, like you said, that it was your father and your cousin. You guys all got together to make this. What's it like? I mean, working with family now, like.
I suppose that we've all seen Succession and this type of.
I love you, but you are not serious people.
So we are not Succession at all. And we get on really well.
Okay.
We also have a bit less money.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay.
Honestly, and I loved working in the corporate world, but it's very different when you work for your own family. So my grandfather had 3 sons, who in turn have kids, my generation. There's 10 cousins, 10 of us cousins. And so one of my cousins is running the family operations and has been for the last 12 years. Fantastic guy, a real passionate cognac maker. He's an agricultural engineer by training, and joined the family business after having had other experiences. But he's like a great technician, so he's overseeing obviously all of the agricultural part of wine growing and wine making. He's overseeing all of the distilling and then the aging and hence the blending. So he's really the master blender, as you said. And it was great, I would say, combining my experience of working international markets of spirits and his experience of making a fantastic cognac. But obviously that's not the end of the story. We have my father, my uncle, my other uncle unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but one of our other cousins is helping us more from I would say the financing and the kind of corporate management of the company. So we've had, I would say, and I think it's probably one of the recipe for success in family businesses, is we've had real business discussions and some of the toughest negotiations I had to do, but I prefer that because things are clear and the interests of the family are protected by the fact that both of my cousins and my father and my uncle really challenged me on the business plan and on what we want to do and on hiring the team. But then once the negotiation is done, they are super supportive and it's great. We had a launch event in Cognac, which was very emotional. Almost all my brothers and sisters came, a lot of my cousins came, and it was great to think that our grandfather was watching that from somewhere, and seeing us trying to do that. The other thing, and that's why I also wanted to raise capital from not just my family but others, is that there is also kind of that third party group of people who are really interested in the project but don't have the family connection, and that also brings to the family a certain reassurance that this is also validated by people who are, some of them are former high executives in the spirits industry, so they have a ton of experience there. Some are celebrities, some are French fairly wealthy business people, American fairly wealthy business people who have a ton of experience, not necessarily in our industry. And so combining that with my family is also bringing a bit of a balance. But I would say overall, and hopefully this is successful, and people say, by the way, that it will be more challenging if it is successful than if it is not, but I mean, it's great because you work for your family, and it gives, for me, it's amazing being in meetings with my cousin and with my dad, and it's great.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Does your cousin live on the estate as well, or
he
so everybody
he lives in Cognac.
Okay, because too, one of the things, the label, the emblem you guys have is part of the family window, correct?
Yes.
Like it's.
So it's I have to say it's an idea from so that bottle, which I think is gorgeous and I love it.
Yeah.
Was designed. So I worked with it was my idea, but I worked with a local agency in Cognac.
Okay.
Because I'm not a designer at all, so I needed. And in fairness, I think they came up with something great, and they had a lot of good ideas. And this, indeed, in the middle. So there's really two kind of houses that are 1 kilometer apart from each other. One is the original farm where today there is the distillery, the warehouses. There's still my uncle still lives there, and there's a lot of buildings there. And then a kilometer away, there's a castle where my grandfather used to live, and where actually I grew up as well, which is kind of the family house, and we call it the Martingale house.
Yeah.
And so that's a 17th century castle. And on the main front, there's at the top, there's a strange window, which is fairly uncommon for this era in France, which is a round window with green tinted glass that really is almost similar to that design. And the agency said, well, we love your name, Martingale, we love the bottle, we have an idea, we should use that kind of round window, which is when I was a kid and I could see my grandfather coming back to the house. That's through that window I used to see it, and I thought that it was a great way to symbolize where we come from, our old house, and insert the letter M, which really is inspired by the shapes of the tinted glass in that round window. Okay,
that's awesome. It's again, the bottle is beautiful, like the way that you've mimicked the almost the emerald, if you will, into that bottle. It's just gorgeous. It really just stands out, and it's so nice. Because like you said, cognacs are usually darker. Like a lot of them are, and this almost looks bourbon-esque in a way.
Yes.
Like it almost looks like even like an Irish, almost like it looks like a really light whiskey, but it's
our Japanese whiskey. It's very intentional.
Yeah.
That's the way we've designed it. And to achieve that, again, we don't use that kind of wood finishes that other brands might use. We just let the eau de vie blend together and shine as they are, and they are a bit clearer. Our goal is to, by creating that more fresh style of cognac, is also to attract people who might not consider cognac as their drink. People who love high-end single malts, so not necessarily the peaty ones, but maybe the Speyside single malts, some of the single pots still from Ireland. Our Japanese whiskey, and we think our style could inspire them to hopefully try cognac.
Well, yeah. Well, there we go. There's question 3. So working with family sounds amazing, and yeah, like this. Again, it's a gorgeous, beautiful bottle, and. All right, we're flying through. Question 4, drink 4. What are we drinking?
So we've had a Bordeaux, nose, flavor, petit champagne, structure, persistence. We're going to go back to the nose with FB, which means fin bois.
Okay.
And we should be back to the nose.
Come back.
So very different nose again than the first two.
Mm-hmm.
And this is still a small area. To explain briefly, Bordeaux and fin bois are soil which contain more clay.
Okay.
Grand Champagne, Petit Champagne are soil which contain a lot more limestone.
Okay.
So that is to a large extent, because obviously it's such a small area, the climate is fairly similar. We get a bit more rainy, and you have a small hills that create a bit of a difference with sun and etc. But it's really the soil as well that makes a big difference. So fin bois, you can smell and then taste. So fin bois, more on the nose. We are back to the nose. Different flavors and aromas than Bordeaux. Fin bois for us is what brings the freshness.
Okay.
It's the. I mean, we like to compare that to if you close your eyes, experimenting, walking in a forest just after the rain in spring. So you have those very not earthy, like leathery dark wood, but more those kind of herbs and green types of scents and flavors that come through. But again, in the mouth, you get that freshness. It's very round, not spicy at all, but it fades quite quickly.
Yeah.
So Bordeaux and fin bois bring those fragrances. Petit Champagne brought a bit of structure. We'll talk about Grand Champagne later. And that's really that complement of those 4 crus between what they bring to the nose and the flavors, and how you make the mouthfeel experience smooth and lengthy.
Nice. It's beautiful. I love this. I like I said, I wasn't really into, like, I drank cognac and armagnacs before, but nothing to like getting into this extent. And yeah, I think you're my first cognac person, so like this is absolutely amazing.
And again, it's really incredible. I think the way those 4 cognacs that we've had actually taste different.
Yeah.
This is very green and very fresh, but when you put it in your mouth, you don't get much.
Yeah.
So it's quite silky, which is pleasant in a way, but it goes very quickly.
Yeah, but it's silky. That is a really nice. That's a good word to use. That is. All right. So question 4. Again, like I said, you're my first cognac person. Why don't you guys have like the VO and the VSO and like that on the bottle?
Yes.
Like,
so for those who don't know, so cognac has traditionally been segmenting. Its different levels of quality by terminologies like VS. It's the first level of cognac, very special. It's 2 years old. Very special old pale, VSOP, is 4 years old. Then you move to XO, which is 10 years old, and then you have XXO and above, Paradis, and etc. And as I explained just that, you can see that there's a big gap between a VSOP, which is 4 years old, and an XO, which is 10 years old. And by the way, XO, only a bit more than 10 years ago, the law was that you had to be 6 years old. Okay. And then the cognac area decided to move that to 10 years old. It's fine, and I love XO cognacs. I love very old cognac, and they bring a certain style of cognac and experience, but I think there's a way to express all the fragrance and the pleasure you can have by drinking a great cognac that actually doesn't really fit the traditional rules of it's just a 4 years old or it's a 10 years old. And so we've created something that's in between a VSOP and an XO, but the law is that we cannot call it anything.
Okay.
And anyway, I didn't really want to go by the traditional standards of cognac, because what we are trying to do is, I respect the great cognac brands. They've done a fantastic work of making a product I love, well known everywhere in the world. But I think they've been a bit narrow in their approach. I think there's an opportunity to maybe expand a bit the cognac to drinkers who wouldn't think they like cognac because they don't know cognac for what it can be, which is that's, yes, very fragrant and very aromatic, but can be very smooth and very elegant and very refined. And so we wanted to move away from those traditional codes of the appellation, and also be in, I think, a gap in the cognac offering, which is between that 4 years old and 10 years old. There's, I think, a huge difference, and you can create a great product, and that's what we've tried to do.
Nice. So again, you're somewhere between 4 and 10.
Exactly.
Like, if
we
anybody-
are on average using mostly 5, 6, 7 years old eau de vie.
Okay. And then you talked during the tasting that cognac has to be made between, or you have to harvest between a certain time frame?
So harvest, that's Mother Nature that guides that. So
Okay.
so you have to have, usually you harvest it, I mean the earliest some years is at the end of August, but then most of the time it's say mid-September to mid-October,
Okay.
roughly. However, what you cannot do is distill for too long a period. So once you have harvested the grapes, you convert them into wine, so you crush them and then you put yeast, and that's the way wine is made. But then you cannot keep the wine past the 31st of March of the following year.
Okay.
Now, this is kind of an old rule when technology was not necessarily what it is today, and the purpose of that is to say after the 31st of March, spring and summer are quite hot in the cognac area, so you are not able to guarantee the quality of the wine during that period of time so that it's going to create a great distillate. So the distillation season is from the time of harvest and winemaking all the way up to the 31st of March. Past the 31st of March, you're no longer allowed to distill, you're allowed to distill, but then you won't be allowed to call it cognac.
Okay.
So that's the rule of
Okay, that's awesome. So then, again, you launched in New York and then LA, not looking for secrets, but what's next for you guys?
What's next? So establish ourselves in New York and Los Angeles, very important because we want to work those markets and be recognized and demonstrate our capacity to have a sustainable business and have consumers who love us, have hopefully retailers of course as well who love us, whether it's bartenders or restaurants or liquor stores as well. And then we will want to expand across the US. So already now we are available in a few other states with a slightly lighter type of setup. So I don't have a team permanent in other states. We have a team permanent in both New York and Los Angeles. And then expansion, so we are available in Florida, in Chicago, and we are going to expand to Maryland, DC this year. We are going to expand to Arizona, New Jersey. So we stay close to our hubs of New York and Los Angeles and gradually expand like that. I am also seeding the brand internationally because I don't want to have a cognac that's just for America.
Sure.
We should share the
Yeah, absolutely.
with the world.
Yeah, yes.
And so right now investigating seeding the brand in Asia, which is where you have a lot of very attractive and interesting cognac markets. In Africa, where cognac is a great category and you have great markets like Nigeria and South Africa. Certain European markets, and probably Canada as well.
Okay.
So geographic expansion in the US and internationally.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there we go. That's question 4. So, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Question 5, drink 5, our last drink of the night. What are we drinking?
So we are going to finish the deconstruction of Martingale. And actually we'll have 2 drinks if that's okay.
Sure, perfect, yes.
So let's put the final component, Grand Champagne, in there. So remember we had Borderie, Fin Bois, lots of fragrances on the nose. We have Petit Champagne, which was structure, and you said a bit of, did you call it spice or?
Yeah, a tingle, yeah.
Tingle, okay. And so we are going to go through Grand Champagne. So Grand Champagne is a bit like Petit Champagne. It's not going to tell much on your nose, right?
I'm not getting, I was going to say, not getting much.
Close, right? But then put it in your mouth. And then you have a very, very full-bodied eau de vie.
Yep.
You have a complete mouthfeel. You have a bit more spice, than, so that tingle you have.
The tingle.
Spice, and you still have it a few seconds, and probably minutes. You will have those aromas and that structure in your mouth for a much longer time. And so now you understand what we've tried to do is magnify what the cognac area can bring, which is extremely fragrant and aromatic eau de vie from Borderie and Frambois,
Mm-hmm.
combined with the structure and spice of Petit Champagne and Grand Champagne, so that you have the complete experience in your mouth and in your nose of incredible fragrances that last and linger in your palate. So, if we finish the Grand Champagne and then we go back to
Yep.
Martingale.
Oh, please, yes.
There, hopefully, you're gonna have the combination of all those four.
Oh.
So you have the incredible aromas and fragrances, those white flowers, notes,
Yeah, you pick up everything now. Like doing the.
and then you put it in your mouth. And you have that, not just the fragrances, but that very round and smooth, with a bit of spice in the end,
Yep.
that comes from the structure and the combination of those fragrant eau de vie with those structured and a bit more spiced eau de vie, and hopefully that creates an incredible experience that
Yeah, no, it's
people who don't know cognac should try and have, I think.
absolutely. Not question 5, but like, who's your target market for this? Like, who are you imagining drinking Martingale, and where are they drinking it? Like,
Yeah.
is that the?
So it's funny because most brands will tell you whomever wants to
Sure.
can, of course. And actually we've designed Martingale to be enjoyed probably by, I would say probably 2 types of consumers, I suspect, but again, who knows. But one is people who know cognac and have been educated to cognac, and they like the general aromas and taste of a cognac, but might want to maybe graduate to something that's going to be a bit different to what they've been used to, which again is great, but has this tendency to be kind of one-dimensional and rich and heavy and complex, yes, of course, but maybe a bit blunt, and would like to discover the same aromas they love in a product that's maybe a bit more refined than what they've been used to.
Okay.
But then as well, we would love for cognac to be, and our cognac to be opening the cognac category to people who love high-end spirits, because this is a fairly luxurious spirit and we've designed it to be high quality and etc. And people who have curiosity for high-end spirits and love discovering incredible aromas, but having a really, really great spirit from a structure and balance and smoothness point of view. So we say Martingale is the combination of the aromas of a great fine wine and the structure of a great whiskey. And so I would love for people who love Japanese whiskey or love single malts, but would say, no, cognac is not for me. I mean, why would I drink a cognac? And maybe try and realize that, well, actually this is obviously not a single malt, because single malts are made of grain and in different areas in the world, but there is that same complexity, that level of refinement and smoothness and experience, but with a slightly different set of aromas and fragrances that are very enjoyable and pleasurable. Mm-hmm. So attracting as well those high-end spirits drinkers that don't consider necessarily cognac, and have them realize that this is a fantastic experience and something to be had.
Awesome. All right. So question 5 comes down to the Whiskey Wednesday coin. You can flip it, you can spin it. You don't have to answer. The coin gives us the answer.
Okay.
And again, it's just a silly way to end the night after 5 drinks. There's no. This is just a silly way to end. So it's not. But so question 5, you have a Scotsman as a business partner.
Yes.
It's a family-owned business. You ever think about adopting an Irishman to come join your family?
So let me turn the coin.
Oh, yeah, if you just spin that way.
Sorry.
One side says fuck yeah, one side says fuck no. It still says fuck no. But yeah.
Fuck no.
Fuck no.
Although I love Irish people.
I mean, I just want to come live in the estate. So, like, that's all I really
you can come and visit.
There you go.
Then we see about living.
Well, cheers. Sir, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. This was 5 drinks down, 5 questions answered. Not even close to midnight, but I am obsessed with Martingale. So again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Cheers. And hopefully we get to drink together again very soon.
Oh, yeah, that would be with pleasure. In the estate.
Oh.